World Wide Web, good morning and welcome. I'm GW Pomichter, and we are hanging with artists, authors, game designers, writers, creators of all kinds at the 34th Annual Necronomicon in Tampa, Florida. Before we get going, I just want to send a quick shout out to our friends and sponsors over at Something Unique Magazine who are helping us share these videos and share these fantastic artists with the World Wide Web. Again, we're at the 2015 Necronomicon at the Grand Hyatt Regency Hotel in Tampa Bay, and we are hanging right now with Nathan VanCoops.
That's correct.
The writer of the, my card says, that's probably not right. So I'm going to go with the Chronothon. Yeah. Okay, Chronothon. Nathan VanCoops at the Chronothon is the author of Chronothon, and
I've got a.
This is what you need to know. So Nathan and I can just chat because this is what you need to know.
This is true. Yeah, it's a time travel adventure series. It's,
awesome.
The series is called In Times Like These. Which is the first book of the series, and the Chronothon is the second installment, but it also can be a standalone novel right on its own. It's basically a marathon, but for time travelers. So
awesome.
The Chronothon.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. What inspired this story? Where did this come from?
Well, I've always been a big fan of time travel.
LSD or something. Where did this...
time travel is addictive in its own way.
Yes.
Of course, we got a big year for time travel. We're only a couple days away from Marty McFly coming back from 1985
That's right.
to visit us here in
I was just online in the World Wide Web world out there. I was watching. I saw they made a Jaws 19 trailer just to go along with the Back to the Future thing. So it's kind of a big deal.
It is.
It's great because this community in particular, when we're talking about sci-fi and fantasy and speculative fiction, this community, we had anything for a long time. Yep. And Marty McFly made us laugh and made us think at the same time. Yep. And so, it's been years and 30 years.
And we're having a fun time comparing and contrasting how the future that they predicted in 1985, some of the things that have come true, and some of the things that maybe they missed a little bit. But we got the Cubs that are in the playoffs, and there's a lot of things that they were predicting in 1985.
It's what's a lot of fun oftentimes with this kind of stuff is to see, like you said, it's kind of it's a game for a futurist when you're looking forward in time, and you try to figure out what are we going to have, and how far did they miss the mark?
Yeah.
And I think unlike some of the previous futurists, we didn't miss the mark by that much. And some of the technologies they talked about, while they might not be used the same way, are here.
Absolutely.
I mean, we don't use them the same way they predicted, but I even saw somewhere out there on social media someone working on a skateboard.
Hoverboard, they've got one on a magnetic floor. I've seen one around.
That's really kind of cool. So, and what do you love about working in this genre?
There's so many things I love about time travel, and largely it opens a lot of doors for fiction, especially in the same way that for J.K. Rowling, fans took a leap and said, okay, magic is real. And then once you walk through that door, then everything else is possible. And I think that time travel is one of those genres that if you have all of space and time to deal with, you can go into the future, into the past, and it opens so many doors as an author, as a writer, but also as a reader of ways you can explore time.
That's what we
history.
do. We ask the question, what if?
Exactly.
And when you're working with time, there are an infinite number of what ifs.
Possibilities, exactly.
Which is great. We got
multiple
tickets
worlds
here. What is this?
We do. Well, I'm happy to announce that the Chronothon is now going to be an audiobook. It's narrated by a very talented narrator named Neil Helgers. It's coming out this week on Audible and on Amazon. It'll be out shortly, and so I've been raffling off for fans here at Necronomicon. People have been able to have a chance to win a free copy of the audiobook.
Oh, great.
I've also been signing up for people who want to join my email list, and they can also get a free ebook copy of In Times Like These. So if you Google my name, look me up, find me on Amazon, you can actually get the first book of the series for free as an ebook. And then
that's great.
Read your way into the series to see if you like it.
That is awesome, man. And so give us a little bit of a little taste, a little outline.
Sure. The Chronothon, which is the second book of the series, which can be read independently as well, is a time travel adventure race. Basically, a novice time traveler gets brought into this world of time travelers and gets inducted into a race through time. They race through history. It's basically like The Amazing Race, but through different time periods. So they're going from history and into the future. So every level is a new challenge for them to overcome.
That's kind of cool.
It's a lot of fun. Had a great time writing it.
It is. That's got to be kind of cool. You're here at the con. Have you been to many cons before?
This is really my first year of going to cons. I've been to Tampa Comic Con. I'm going to be at Tampa Bay Times Festival of Reading down in St. Pete next month, so I'll be there with a bunch of other great writers.
Yeah, we just found out about that a little while ago, and
people want to come out and get their books signed by an author at Tampa Bay Times Festival of Reading. That's in a couple weeks.
Fantastic. And so you'll be making the rounds here coming up to Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Anything else coming up down the road?
Well, I've got another book coming out in the spring, I hope, and then of course, like my big thing right now is the audiobook coming out on Audible.
Oh, so that's amazing. I was surprised at how popular those are.
Oh yeah.
In terms of I'm a paper guy. I have a little bit of problem getting used to Kindle on my phone, and I can't.
That's where if you can plug in those headphones and just while you're working out, while you're commuting to work,
drive time is great for listening to audiobooks, and a lot of people are doing that. And so where can we find you here online? We can find the books, the ebooks now coming. The audiobook will be on Audible.
Absolutely.
I assume in iTunes.
And also my website, Nathan VanCoops at NathanVanCoops.com.
Okay.
And also thechronathon.com. So if you just look up thechronathon.com, it's easy to find. And I'm the only Nathan VanCoops in the world.
And we blast out to social media because apparently that's where everybody's hanging out these days.
Yep. Facebook, Twitter.
So Facebook, Twitter. You can find you there.
At Nathan VanCoops.
Outstanding. Yep. And so, what are some of your favorite things this weekend, being in the con environment? You're new to the environment, and so what have you really enjoyed the most?
It was my first time getting a chance to host some panels and talk to some other panelists. We had some really great authors that were able to interact, on these different topics. We talked about the future. We talked about AI. We talked about lots of fun topics that readers are really interested in, and I just had a blast just chit-chatting with fans, selling some books and getting to pick their brains a little bit too about the stuff they're writing. There's a lot of writers here, a lot of writers.
We talked earlier about the fact that when you come to a con, there's as much creativity on that side of the table as there is on this side of the table.
Absolutely.
And the artists themselves are fans.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And oftentimes the fans are artists.
Yeah, a lot of the audience for the panels, like we might have a topic on writing, but most of the audience is writers too. So they got intelligent questions, great way to interact.
How long have you been publishing?
I came out with the first book in 2013. I've been writing since 2009, but first book came out in 2013. This one was out in Groundhog Day this year, 2015.
And then you got another one coming out.
Next one in the pipeline. Hopefully keep them coming,
huh?
Yeah.
So that's fairly recently.
Yep.
All things considered, especially some of the authors that we've talked to this weekend. I've been writing since I was 12, and I published them when I was 13, and that's a long time. Yep. So how are you liking it? Now you're doing panels. You're sitting up there, and you're giving advice, and you're talking about these topics with a degree of expertise, which is different than maybe 5 years ago.
It is.
You would have been on this side of the panel going,
And the learning curve is incredible. I always say, from the time you start a book to the time you finish a book, you're twice the author you were when you started. And I think that, so when you finish your second book, you're twice as good as you were when you first one. And that should continue if you're doing it right. You should, every time you write a book, you should be getting better. And if I knew now what I knew when I first published my first book, it would be incredible. The amount of things you learn
along the way.
And a lot of it is through networking with other authors at events like this. So not only am I here to promote my own works, but I'm also here to network and connect and learn from the other authors. And one of the biggest tools for me has been getting on Goodreads, promote myself on there, joining some groups, talking to some other authors, and learning what other people are doing coming to cons is one of those things, one of those tools in the toolbox.
And I find that it's good for the struggle, because you look around and you see that other authors, even the most successful authors, they've been in the same place as you. Yep. They've been through the same struggle as you. Yep. And there's a bright side on the other end.
Yeah, and they give some great advice and help you along the way. And I always am helpful whenever I can. If people ask me questions about the journey I've been on, how have I gotten to this point, And I think a lot of the author community has grown that way, where we're much more open than in the past. I think in the last few years, people have been very
well. There used to be a buffer
supportive.
between each of us.
Yeah.
You have your agent and your publishing company.
It's much more competitive.
And it was very competitive to get into those things. And now, we still had that classic route. We still have that.
Yep.
But thanks to the fans and the cons, and thanks to a lot of times the independent publishing movement, where we're meeting with authors who are doing it on their own.
Absolutely.
They're on the same journey. As but
and you have to wear a lot of those hats. You have to wear those hats of editing, publisher. Sometimes these people are doing their own cover designs and creative stuff.
I always find that amazing. I had the skills to put the sentence together.
Yeah.
I'm smart enough to fix the sentence when someone who can tell me to fix it.
Yeah.
But then to say, hey, I can visually stimulate your mind, because what I do with words, I see artists doing with images, and I think I don't know that I don't even know how they do it, let alone whether or not.
And there's a lot. I think it was Orville Redenbacher who said, "Do one thing, do it well." Mm. And there's a lot of truth to that, where you have to sometimes learn as indies and as people that we want control. We want to be able to control everything, and sometimes it's tough to relinquish that duty to someone else and say, "Hey, you design this cover, because I know that you're a professional. You're going to do a better job."
Yeah.
But in the end, I think it's
balances
in our best interest to let other talented people help you.
And if nothing else, to let them inspire you.
Yeah.
So I'm not an artist. I may have an idea in my head and say, well, I think maybe this.
Yeah.
But a cover designer comes back and says, well, really do this. And by the time they're done, you kind of look at it and you go, oh,
exactly. And I had that exact same experience with the Chronothon. I had sort of a vision in my head, and they came back with a multiple of, this was demanza.com, I think it's how it's pronounced, and they're out of the West Coast. But they came back with 4 designs, and one of them looked a lot like what I had envisioned. But then they had this one, which I thought was better. It was completely not what I've been looking for. It kind of grabs your attention.
It grabs your attention. It's unique. It's got kind of multiple feels to it. You get a little steampunk feel.
Yeah, well, steampunk meets kind of like Fight Club, Mad Max kind of vibe going on here.
So again, they know what stimulates.
A race element with the racetrack.
That's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so
that's what real designers can do for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say that that's what you do with words.
Yep.
And so if they wanted something that they needed to hold people's attention for more than a visual shot, they call you.
Yep.
So it all does balance out in the end.
Yeah.
What's the biggest? You're new to the con circuit. You've been doing it this year. Biggest surprise or biggest thing that kind of hit you and went, whoa, this is a different environment for me. What really was? What kind of brought you into culture shock in the?
Well, I'm always fascinated by the attendees, and it's a broad range of people that show up to these events, and of course some of the cosplay that goes on. You get some really interesting costumes, and you think, wow, that someone has really spent a lot of time on this.
We talked yesterday to Han Solo.
Okay.
And we talked to a couple other cosplayers.
Yeah.
And that's a creative endeavor all of its own.
It is.
Between designing and the seamstress.
Labor of love, for sure.
It really is. And we talked to one of the contestants of the contest who was telling us that they've been to the larger cons, more celebrity-based cons, where the actual person or actress who came up to them and said, that actually is a better costume than the one I wore.
In the show.
So it is a creative endeavor all its own.
Yep.
And so we can find you on Facebook. We can find you at NathanVanCoops.com.
Absolutely.
And
the Chronothon.com.
Yep. And you can get the Chronothon, and it's really a series.
It is.
This is the center book.
In Times Like These is the prequel, and then this is the...
Okay. And you find them all over social media. So find Nathan and find these books. And thank you very much for hanging with us, Nathan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We're at Necronomicon's 34th annual event. We've been hanging with Nathan VanCoops of the Chronothon. I don't know why I keep wanting to stick an extra syllable in there for some reason.
It's tempting.
It is. The Chronothon, which is actually a series that starts here with In Times Like These. Chronothon is the second one. The third one is coming soon. And so make sure you check that out. I'm GW Pomichter. We'll be back in just a little bit more. And we're going to keep hanging with artists, authors, writers, designers, creators of all kinds at Necronomicon. Log on, tune in, and see who we're hanging with next.
The Submit to Darkness series by indie author A.J. Spencer is now complete. This dark and twisted erotic thriller spans 3 books and follows FBI profiler Natasha Stolt as she hunts the serial killer known as Grimm. Will you become as obsessed with her prey as she does?
You little watchdogs off your leash, princess, and I'm gonna change everything. I'm a creature of duty. Please do not put yourself in the way of that duty. Now, son, we have to go.
Hello, World Wide Web. I'm GW Pomichter, and we are hanging with artists, authors, game designers, writers, creators of all kinds at the 34th Annual Necronomicon in Tampa, Florida. Before we jump right in, we want to send a real quick shout out to our good friends over at Something Unique Magazine for helping us to share these videos and share these artists all over the World Wide Web. We're at Necronomicon 2015 at the Grand Hyatt Regency in Tampa, and we are hanging with E. Rose Sabin. Yes, ma'am. The author of Warehouse and To the Far Side of the Forest. And so welcome, and thanks for being with us, Rose.
Thank you very much.
Glad
to be here, Gary.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Warehouse. I know.
Well, Warehouse, it's were as in werewolves.
Yes, ma'am.
But these are people who are not shape changers, and they don't do strange things when the moon is full or anything of that sort. They are people who have animal spirits within them, and those spirits can come out and take physical form, leaving the host in a sort of trance because his or her consciousness goes with the animal.
Okay.
And therefore, that person is vulnerable, which of course brings up all sorts of possibilities in the plot because they are endangered in the book by a group of people who want to put all of these, make sure, they want to kill the animal spirits. They think they're demons.
Oh, okay, I see.
And they're demon hunters.
Wow. So that's some pretty neat stuff that you've got going on, and that's
it's a fun story.
Is it? Yeah, mm-hmm. It was fun to write.
It was fun to write, very much so.
So how do you like the con so far? And have you met a lot of readers? And
yes, and I always enjoy the con. I come every year.
Really?
I've been coming since before I was published.
Wow.
And in fact, I get a lot of inspiration here every year.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And so have you? You were yesterday. Had a lot of stuff going on yesterday. Mm-hmm. You come to the cons every year. What's your favorite part of the con experience?
Well, I like the interaction with readers, of course. I guess that really is my favorite part. I get to talk to so many different people, and I find new readers that way. I also love the costumes. I don't do costuming myself, but I love to see the costumes, and I enjoy the masquerade that we have.
It is a lot of fun.
It
really
is.
was.
It's a lot of fun.
We saw so many interesting and really well thought out costumes yesterday. And
they really have been fantastic this year.
Yeah, it was terrific. So you also have out To the Far Side of the Forest.
Yes, that's a book for teens.
Okay.
I was a middle school teacher for many years.
Okay.
And so it's aimed at that particular age group, although it can be read by older or even younger people. But it's aimed at the middle school age. It is a story of young people in a tribal culture.
Okay.
And coincidentally, they too have animal spirits, but it's an entirely different type of thing and different type of story. The main character finds out that many of the people that she has believed in and loved in her tribe all of her life have been living a lie.
Okay.
And she and her friends, when they discover this, are driven into a thick forest that they have to pass through, and then on the other side they come to a very civilized area, and everything is different to them. So
another culture clash going on there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what inspires you to write these kinds of books?
Many different things. For one thing, I get wild dreams sometimes, and I get a lot of ideas from dreams. But I get ideas from newspaper articles, current events, just conversations with people, other books sometimes.
Wow.
So it's interesting.
How long have you been writing?
All my life actually, but mostly for my own amazement and amusement until about 1983. I think I really buckled down and decided I'm going to do this commercially, but it took me a long time to get published. I had to learn the craft. I'd been doing academic type writing, which is entirely different from writing fiction. So I had to unlearn a lot of things, along with learning a lot of new things. And I was very fortunate because I had written a couple of novels, hadn't done anything with them, didn't know what to do with them. I was just totally new.
Yeah.
But I learned about a contest run by Andre Norton, who is now no longer with us, but she was a very well-known science fiction and fantasy writer. And I had met her at a conference.
Okay.
And I knew that she sponsored an award for the best unpublished manuscript by a new woman fantasy writer.
Okay.
And I thought, I'm going to try that. So I sent a manuscript that I had completed, and she wrote me back the sweetest letter. It didn't win. She said she was sorry it didn't make the cut, but she felt it was publishable, and still hasn't been published. But that's beside the point. She inspired me to try again. She encouraged me to try again. And so I had talked to her enough that I kind of knew what she liked. And I aimed a novel specifically knowing
what
the kind of
liked.
things she enjoyed. Although there were other judges in the contest, it wasn't just judged by her. And I entered a book that I called The School for Sorcery, A School for Sorcery. And it won. It won first place. And I was so thrilled, and I was so excited, and I thought, oh, I'm in. And this was in 1992.
Okay.
So I had been writing, for about almost 10 years by then. Of course, I had already written it before I submitted it, so I'm not quite sure when I actually started writing it. But the point is, I just wrote what I knew she liked and what I liked, and they always say, write what you know. Well, I had been a middle school teacher, and I knew teaching, so I thought, well, I'll write about a school and students. That's what I know. Well, I didn't realize then that it would be labeled YA, young adult, which is, in fact, teens.
Yes.
So when I sent it out, and publishers were willing to look at it because of its having won this award, I got the word that, well, this is YA, but we don't do long YAs. It was 80,000 words. That's not that long.
Okay.
But they said 40,000 to 60,000 words is the norm for YAs. So I put it up in my attic and just kind of forgot about it and did other things. And then the Harry Potter books came out.
And broke all the rules.
Oh, they broke all the rules, and they got all of the major publishers eager to begin new YA fantasy series, or fantasy and science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And as it chanced, I sent a query to Andre Norton's agent, and he knew about the award, and he was very fond of Andre, and so he took me on and got me a contract with Tor, which is a major publisher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So my first book came out in 2001, and that was The School for Sorcery. And of course everybody says, oh, this is a Harry Potter knockoff. And I said, no, it was written well before Harry Potter.
So any advice for the young artist out there that wants to get started and just doesn't know how, and any words of encouragement for those folks?
Absolutely. In fact, I did a workshop on this yesterday.
Awesome.
Yes. It's not an easy road, but you can do it if you learn your craft and be patient. Ideas are everywhere. You just take one and start and let the ideas flow. Don't worry about form. Don't worry about grammar at first. Get your ideas on paper. Then you can work with it, just much as a sculptor works with clay.
Yes, ma'am.
After you get the raw material down on paper, you can start molding it, and you'll take writing courses if you have the opportunity. Go to writing conferences. Go to science fiction and fantasy conventions if you happen to be writing in those genres. And you'll learn a great deal. And you'll be able to take that raw material that you've got down and build it into something that will eventually be publishable.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Rose. We really appreciate you hanging with us today. And Rose is the author of Warehouse and To the Far Side of the Forest, as well as the books that we talked about here earlier that got her started. And the first one was The School of Sorcery. And you can find those at online bookstores, I'm sure, and in your local bookstores everywhere.
Probably not. Those aren't in the local bookstores, but they are all available online.
All available
online. All of
online.
my books are. I have 14 books out now.
Wow, fantastic.
And so they're all in both electronic form and print.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you very much, Rose. Rose Sabin, who has been here talking about Warehouse and To the Far Side of the Forest, and being a creator and an artist in general, and the con experience, and some words of encouragement there for you artists and authors, writers, makers and creators out there that are getting started. Keep going. Learn your craft. And get better and better and better at it, and just keep going. And so we've been hanging with Rose Sabin, creator of Warehouse and The Far Side of the Forest. I'm GW Pomichter, and we'll be back in just a little bit. So log tune in, and see who we're going to be hanging with next here at Necronomicon 2015.